podcast number 7 for thebaycave.com. And whether you want to go ahead and admit it or not, the Buccaneers had a very, very, very impressive victory against the Kansas City Chiefs this past Sunday. Obviously, it is the Kansas City Chiefs, and they are struggling a little bit this season. But the bottom line is that if you want to be a good team, you have to beat these bad teams convincingly, and that's what the Buccaneers did. Now, the Chiefs did come into the game ranked 8th in the league against the pass, and Josh Freeman, with a little help of his receivers, obviously, was able to have himself a very good game. He did pass for over 300 yards, 328 yards to be exact, with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. He completed 15 passes off of 26 attempts. So he definitely did do very well for himself. Obviously, with the assistance of his receiving corps, Mike Williams did finish with over 100 yards. He did grab a touchdown, and Vincent Jackson did get 4 completions himself, 4 receptions for 66 yards. He ended up getting 2 touchdowns out of those 4 receptions. Now, the main story coming into the game on Sunday was obviously the suspension of your very own cornerback, Aqib Talib. We all know and are familiar with at this point with Aqib Talib's troubles off the field. In this particular case, however, he's got himself into trouble, whether he was trying to do it or intentionally, whether he did it accidentally, it's yet to be known. However, he was caught in the beginning of training camp with Adderall in his system, and he did not deny it. He actually did come out, admitted himself, saying that it was Adderall that was in his system. Now, he actually did say, I want to backtrack for a minute, and I do apologize. He did say that it was without a prescription, and when he was caught, like I stated in the beginning of training camp. I'll go ahead and read a quick portion off of his statement that he released via the Buccaneers. Quote, "This is especially regrettable because for the past several months, with Coach Schiano's help, I've worked very hard to improve myself, professionally and personally, as a player and a man. I am truly sorry to my teammates, coaches, and Buccaneers fans, and I'm disappointed in myself." End quote. Now, does Talib mean it? There have been several fans already on Twitter tweeting me, telling me that they need to get rid of this guy. They need to go ahead and figure out what to do with him in the offseason, let him go, trade him. A trade isn't going to happen, I can tell you that much. More importantly, reason being is because the trade deadline this season is week 8. When Aqib Talib comes back, because he is suspended for 4 games as of this past Sunday, it'll be past that trade deadline. Nobody is going to go ahead and want to trade for a suspended player. Bottom line, point blank, end of story. So you can forget about that. Yesterday, however, or I should say on Monday, I apologize, during the Buccaneers press conference, Greg Schiano did say that basically to trust him and the organization's decision on what they want to go ahead and do with Talib. He went ahead and elaborated by saying, quote, "Every decision that we make as an organization has one thing in mind, and that's what's best for the organization. When I say best, it's not just winning. Yeah, that's what we do. That's what you do in this league. There are 32 teams and we're all chasing one prize. But when you're a part of a community, there are a lot of things that go into the decision, and I can just tell our fans and all the people who care about this is we're going to do what's best for the organization, which is going to be what's best for everybody. So you've got to just trust us on this one." End quote. Take that for what it's worth. Coach Schiano didn't say that yes, for a fact they are going to go ahead and keep him at the end of the season. He also did not say that they're going to cut him at the end of the season. What is for certain is that they will be moving forward with him as the season goes on. Whether he does still become or still stays with the Buccaneers organization at the end of the season, obviously will remain to be seen. But think about it like this. How many times has Aqib Talib let this team down? At this point, it's more than a handful, correct? He has put himself in bad situations, bad positions for himself, for his teammates, for the team. At what point do you start saying enough is enough? If you go back to when Coach Schiano was hired as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach, he stated that everybody was going to start with a clean slate. Up until this point, from our understanding, from our belief, from what we've read, from what we've heard, Aqib Talib has pretty much been quiet. He hasn't come out and said anything to the extent to where, yeah, I feel like hitting another taxi cab driver in the back of the head. He didn't do anything to that extent. He hasn't put anyone in harm's way. But in this particular case, however, it happened under Schiano's watch. Since January, when Coach Schiano said that everybody has a clean slate, everybody will be taught the Buccaneer way and be groomed to be Buccaneer men. Now, this is going to be open for interpretation. Will Coach Schiano look at it and say, okay, Aqib, this is what we can go ahead and do for you. I'm going to give you one more shot. But if you screw up a second time, I can guarantee you're going to have a tough time trying to find a job in this league again. Or will he say, look, Aqib, I appreciate your services in my first year here as the Tampa Bay Buccaneer head coach. But as you can understand, this is also a business. Yada, yada, yada. Will he go on from there and let him loose? This is Aqib's last year. What Schiano's trying to do, whether he is definitely trying to give him a shot, or another shot I should say, under his watch, again, it's open for interpretation. My belief is they're going to go through the rest of the year and revisit it at the end of the year, whether they make the playoffs or not, and base it off of that. It's a tough decision nonetheless, because when he's out there and he has his head in the game, he can definitely be one of the best corners in the league. But will we continue to see that as the season goes on, or as his career goes on as a Buccaneer? Think about that for a second. Would you want to see an athlete who is consistently putting himself in bad positions, in bad situations, to find himself suspended? It's a tough call. If you're Greg Schiano, I'm sure it's a tough call. You don't want to see anybody. You don't want to be the one, I should say, to end someone's career or end someone's tenure as a teammate to others. Because I'm sure he definitely has very, very good relationships in that locker room with other players. But when is enough is enough? And that's the question. This is the first strike under Greg Schiano. Granted, he said everybody has a clean slate. We saw what he's done with what he did with Tanar Jackson, what he did with Kellen Winslow. What is he going to do with Talib? Does Talib really have that much talent to continue to give him a pass, whether it's Raheem Morris or it's Greg Schiano? We'll see what happens at the end of the year. I thank you guys for listening in. This is podcast number 7 for thebaycave.com. NHL's under a lockout. Not much to talk there from the Lightning front. And the race season is obviously over. We're well into the MLB playoffs with the Yankees finding themselves in a huge hole to climb out of. So you guys will hear from me soon. And again, appreciate the support. Check back again next week. Be good, everyone.